So, you're in the mood for some crab legs, but you don't want to shell out the money for them at your local fish market. What to do? Luckily, there's a solution, but is it as environmentally friendly as it seems? What is imitation crab? Imitation crab is essentially a type of reconstituted fish that may be sold in flake, chunk, or stick form. When it's sold as a stick, it's seeking to emulate the shape and texture of meat from genuine crab legs. But as its name indicates, it usually doesn't contain any real crab, relying instead on a combination of fish and other ingredients to recreate some of the flavor and texture of real crab meat.
Who can't tell that real crab isn't fake crab? And
by the way, people should be able to tell real crab from fake crab.
We've got the Japanese to thank for imitation crab. Invented in 1974 by the Sugio Company, it's typically utilized as an ingredient in other dishes and is perhaps best known for its use in California rolls. In some cultures, imitation crab may be enjoyed on its own or as the star of a dish. In France, it's often dipped in mayonnaise as a snack, while in Japan, it's the main ingredient in kani salad, which combines imitation crab with crunchy cucumber and carrots, sweet corn and mango, and a sriracha spiced mayonnaise dressing. The main ingredient in imitation crab hails from the sea, even though it's not a crustacean. It's made of surimi, a processed fish paste that's often made with a mild-tasting whitefish such as pollock. A member of the cod family, pollock is popular around the world. It's often served battered and fried in the UK, smoked in Germany and Denmark, or stewed as part of a rich soup or stock in France. In addition to surimi, imitation crab typically contains some starch, such as potato, wheat, corn, or tapioca, as well as a protein like egg white or soy. These ingredients give it a firmer texture with more bite and chew. Sugar and sorbitol add sweetness to the mix, which emulates the relatively sweeter flavor of genuine crab. Oil improves the texture of the meat and the shelf life of the product. Salt and other preservatives also help to boost the flavor and further extend imitation crab's best by date. Each species of real crab offers a unique flavor and texture. Blue crabs, for instance, are typically found in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. Beloved for their deep flavor and buttery texture, they're often simply steamed or enjoyed in crab cakes with minimal filler to let the meat shine. The back fin meat of the blue crab is considered the choicest piece, with a texture similar to a scallop. King crabs, meanwhile, are known for their massive size, sometimes spanning 5 feet from leg to leg. They boast a tender texture and an especially rich flavor. Leaner than many other types of crab meat, king crab is usually served with a big bowl of drawn butter. And Dungeness crab is a Pacific treat known for its slightly nutty flavor and tender texture. Meanwhile, in Florida, stone crab season is time for celebration. Their claws are usually served with a wooden mallet to crack them open and get at the delicious meat inside. They're also typically served steamed and then chilled with a side of mustard sauce. One big difference between real and imitation crab is real crab's seasonality. Blue crabs, for instance, typically spawn around the Carolinas from March to October and will usually be at their largest just after this period. Fishing for crabs after spawning season also helps to combat overfishing. In other places, crab season can vary widely. Maryland blue crabs are usually at their best when caught in early fall, while you can only legally harvest Florida's stone crabs from October to May. Soft shell crabs, which have a unique texture because they're harvested mid-molt, are more often enjoyed in late spring and summer. By fall, they tend to disappear as the southern waters they frequent grow chilly. Crab boasts many of the same health benefits as other seafood, such as richness in essential nutrients like vitamin B12 and folate, as well as minerals like iron, niacin, selenium, and zinc. Unlike many other popular seafoods, crab is far less likely to contain the high levels of mercury that can make overconsumption dangerous or even lethal. Crab also typically has plenty of omega-3 fatty acids that can help improve heart and brain health. While crab itself is relatively healthy, many people like it best when it's served with drawn butter, which makes this delicacy quite a bit richer and heavier. In general, butter should only be consumed in moderation because of its high saturated fat content. Pairing crab with a source lower in saturated fat, such as avocado, is a more heart-healthy choice. The health benefits of crab aren't necessarily shared by imitation crab, which is generally poorer in essential nutrients, with significantly less protein, vitamins, and minerals. Many varieties also contain artificial ingredients like food coloring as well as added sugar. While imitation crab isn't necessarily bad for you, it's rarely as nutritious as the real deal.
That is correct.
An ever-growing body of research has touted the health benefits of the low-carb, high-fat keto diet. One 2014 study in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health indicates that a physician-approved keto diet could promote weight loss, while a 2018 review in the Expert Review of Endocrinology and Metabolism indicates that keto may help manage the symptoms of type 2 diabetes. A 2019 study in Nutrients suggests that a keto diet may help manage symptoms of drug-resistant epilepsy, while a 2019 paper published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences shows promise that a keto diet could mitigate symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Furthermore, a 2018 study in Aging explored how a keto diet could be used to support cancer treatments. While crab is relatively low in fat, with just 1.3 grams per 3-ounce serving, it's still keto-friendly thanks to its mere 0.95 grams of net carbs. Imitation crab, however, isn't a great choice for a keto diet. That's largely because of the added starches and sugars found in many brands, which contribute to the estimated 12.8 grams of carbs per 3-ounce serving, about the same amount as in 3 ounces of apples. Since apples are a higher sugar fruit, they're not the best choice for keto eaters either. And imitation crab, which lacks fiber that helps the sugars in apples release more slowly into your bloodstream, is potentially even worse. If you frequent your local seafood counter, you surely know that crab isn't the cheapest option around. King crab can fetch as much as $60 per pound in some markets. These prices are linked to several factors, including population crashes connected to climate change and warming ocean waters, as well as the time-consuming nature of catching and shipping crab. Imitation crab, meanwhile, is far more reasonably priced. Indeed, this is a large part of its draw. It was originally invented as a cheaper alternative to the real thing, after all. These days, you'll likely pay somewhere from $3 to $10 for an 8-ounce bag of imitation crab. More expensive brands typically contain at least some real crab meat. Meanwhile, less expensive iterations rely entirely on cheaper fish-based surimi to get that seafood flavor without that seafood cost.
I like money!
Many versions of imitation crab include loads of additives that attempt to give it a similar texture to the real thing, but really there's no comparison. Depending on the variety of crab, you're likely to encounter a unique texture that ranges from flaky to meaty. Once cooked, crab also tends to be easy to flake or shred with a fork. Imitation crab, on the other hand, may be rubbery or chewy, with a flake style that has a texture more similar to a pencil eraser. Imitation crab sticks tend to be stringier and easier to shred, making them more enjoyable because their toughness is significantly diminished once shredded. Combining imitation crab with more textured ingredients like crunchy scallions or creamy mayonnaise can significantly improve the eating experience. Sautéing or even baking imitation crab can also boost the texture, especially if you add a crispy breadcrumb coating for a bit of crunch. But since imitation crab is sold as already cooked and ready to eat, it's easy to overcook, which will only serve to highlight its rubbery texture. If this sounds like a big problem for you, then opt for a cold preparation like a crab salad or a sushi roll to prevent the texture from growing even tougher. In addition to the pricing, another major barrier to entry for many diners when it comes to crab is the work required to prepare and eat it. While some crab is sold cooked and only needs to be shelled before it's ready to eat, this crustacean is often sold while it's still alive. This means that they have to be killed and cooked before being shelled. Such a process can be difficult or even dangerous when it calls for sharp-edged tools. Thus, more cautious cooks tend to choose canned crab or imitation crab. It's no question that imitation crab is much easier to prepare than the real stuff. Furthermore, most sushi bars use imitation crab in California rolls, where its lower price point makes it a no-brainer. Some recipe testers even find that they prefer the less assertive flavor of imitation crab in dishes like crab rangoon or hot crab dip.
Was this some kind of joke?
Nope. This is. Don't eat the crab dip, yay!
A similar argument can be made in favor of imitation crab in spiced Louisiana-style crab cakes. Imitation crab also works well in cold dishes like pasta salad, where it can be combined with other ingredients without overpowering them or getting lost behind more assertive flavors. When it comes to imitation crab, there's plenty of variety in terms of flavor, texture, form, and quality. Some options are fairly tasty and pleasant to eat, while others can come off as too sweet, too processed, or overly firm. Low-grade imitation crab brands often use surimi that's been compressed into flakes or chunks. This form isn't exactly highly sought after, as the texture may be gummy, chewy, or rubbery. The flavor of these products will typically depart the most from real crab, as they offer only the vagueness of seafood-like aromas. A better option is crab crab sticks, which are essentially logs of easily shredded imitation crab. Their more fibrous nature better emulates the texture of real crab, plus they're much easier to disassemble. In Japan, you can even get your hands on high-end imitation crab, which emulates both the flavor and the smell of real crab. It may even be sold in the fish section rather than with other fish cakes and pastes, thereby signaling its high-end appeal. While it may seem counterintuitive, imitation crab could be a serious threat to the health of our oceans. Crab stocks around the world tend to be strictly monitored, and many regions with sought-after crab species usually impose strict seasons and quotas for harvesting. Yet the main ingredient in imitation crab doesn't always enjoy the same protection. Pollock has historically been significantly overfished, with a whopping 50% decline recorded back in 2010. These plummeting numbers could have jeopardized the entire food chain, especially endangered species that relied on it as a staple food, like sea lions. Thankfully, in the past decade plus, major strides have been taken to improve the management of pollock fisheries, like reducing overfishing. Other measures have worked to reduce bycatch, specifically that of Chinook salmon, by carefully monitoring the contents of trawler nets and testing a new salmon excluder device so that fewer non-pollock fish get caught. However, some pollock fisheries remain mismanaged and are still poor choices from an eco-conscious standpoint. If your crab stick brand of choice isn't transparent about its origins, then consider swapping it for one that can guarantee the sustainability of its most important ingredient.